Right. So today, let's take a deep dive into something fun.
Okay.
Italian culture. Have you ever noticed
Yeah.
how Italians bring a certain passion to,
Eh.
well, pretty much everything?
It's true. They really do. And it's more than just a stereotype. It's like woven into the fabric of their history and society.
Yeah.
And we're taking a deep dive into this video
Okay.
that asks this question. Are Italians nuts? The art of taking life seriously and loving an argument.
I love that title.
Yeah. It's got me thinking about how we approach life over here.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
This video had some great examples,
Yeah.
like the way they talk about foods.
Mm.
Cooking pasta for 1 minute too long is not just a mistake, it's a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just hyperbole, is it?
Not at all. I mean, you
Yeah.
see, for Italians, food is deeply tied to family, heritage, even their regional identity. You know,
Yeah.
think back centuries ago, Italy was a patchwork of different regions, often poor, where your local cuisine was a source of pride and
Mhm.
comfort.
So it's like that family recipe isn't just about how it tastes.
Yeah.
It's like a connection to your past.
Exactly. And that explains why you get such heated debates
Right.
over the right way to make a dish. They're upholding tradition, you know?
Right. I get that. But the video also showed this scene in a restaurant where a customer is arguing passionately with the waiter about carbonara. Isn't that taking it a bit far?
Maybe to an outsider.
Yeah.
But think of it this way. They're not just arguing. They're engaging in this lively exchange of ideas. Italians place a high value on self-expression, even when they're disagreeing. It's about the passion they bring to the conversation.
So it's less about being right and more about just showing that you care enough to debate it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you see this passion come out in other ways, too, like their famous hand gestures.
Right.
The video called it a second language. And you've probably experienced this yourself, trying to follow along when someone's speaking Italian and their hands are flying
Oh,
everywhere.
absolutely. It can be a little intimidating at first.
Right.
But you do pick up on some of the classics like the "what are you saying" pinch or the finger twirl for "are you crazy?"
Right. It's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Because those gestures add a whole other layer of meaning to what they're saying.
Yeah.
Italians are all about expressiveness and connecting on an emotional level.
And this attention to detail
Yeah.
seems to go beyond just communication.
Hmm.
The video showed this guy polishing his Vespa until it gleamed,
Mm-hmm.
and a barista taking forever to make like a perfect espresso.
Right?
It made me think about that reputation Italians have for craftsmanship.
Yeah, there's a deep historical context there. I mean,
Yeah.
for centuries, Italy has been a center for artisans and craftsmanship,
Mhm.
from fashion to cars. It's like they inherited this drive for perfection from the Renaissance masters, people like Michelangelo and Da Vinci.
So it's not just about practicality. It's
Right.
about creating something beautiful and well-made.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's just a cup of coffee, it becomes art.
Exactly. They have this concept called la bella figura, which is about presenting yourself and your work in the best possible light.
Okay.
It's about style, grace, and taking pride in what you do.
You know, I bet a lot of us have experienced this without knowing the name for it.
Mhm.
Like, you go to an Italian restaurant,
Yeah.
and even the simplest dish is beautifully plated.
Right.
It's that attention to detail that elevates the whole experience.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
And it ties back into this idea of taking life seriously,
Mm-hmm.
but not in a negative way.
Right.
It's about appreciating the richness of each experience.
Yeah.
Whether it's a delicious meal or a passionate debate about, say,
Yeah.
their beloved football.
Oh, right, football.
Yeah.
I know we need to talk about that because it's a huge part of Italian culture.
Yes.
The video highlighted these intense rivalries between teams like Juventus,
Mm-hmm.
AC Milan, Inter Milan.
Yeah.
And it seems like more than just sport.
It goes way beyond sport. You see, for Italians, football is deeply intertwined with their identity, their regional pride, and a sense of belonging.
Right.
The rivalries, the passionate debates, even those lifelong grudges, they're all part of the cultural fabric.
It's like their team isn't just a team.
Right.
It's like an extension of their family,
Yeah.
their community.
Exactly. It's about the emotional investment, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat.
Mm.
All that passion is what makes it so compelling. And it's not just limited to football either.
Yeah.
This intensity carries over into so many aspects of Italian life.
Well, that makes sense when you think about everything we've been discussing.
Yeah.
The food, the arguments, even the hand gestures.
Yeah,
It's all about expressing yourself with passion and conviction.
it really is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because While some cultures might see this as over the top or even confrontational,
Hmm.
Italians see it as a way of connecting,
Right.
of showing that you care enough to truly engage.
So it's not just about the outward expression.
Yeah.
It's about what's driving that
Yes,
passion.
exactly. It's about the love for family, tradition, and even those heated debates.
The video made a really interesting point.
Yeah.
It said, they argue because they care,
Yeah,
and they care because they love life.
that's right.
It's like this intensity isn't about being difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's about squeezing every drop of joy and meaning out of every experience.
I love that.
That's such a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
I mean, in a world that often pushes us to be more reserved, more stoic,
Mhm.
there's something really refreshing about seeing a culture embrace their emotions so openly.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's inspiring, and it's not about being loud or boisterous all the time either.
Right.
This passion can also manifest in a quiet dedication to a craft, a deep appreciation for beauty, or a heartfelt connection with loved ones.
Mm.
It's about finding your own way to express that zest for life, whatever that looks like for you.
You know, it's making me think about how even simple things,
Yeah.
like taking the time to make a really good cup of coffee, can
Right.
become an act of passion. It's not just about the caffeine. It's about the ritual, the aroma, the
Mhm.
perfect crema on top.
Absolutely. It's about slowing down, appreciating those small details, and finding those moments of joy in the everyday.
Yeah.
It's about being present and engaged, even with the most mundane tasks.
And I think that's something we can all learn from, regardless of our cultural background.
Totally.
I mean, how often do we rush through our days,
Mm-hmm.
focused on checking things off our to-do lists,
Yeah.
and forget to actually savor the experience?
It's all too easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle. But the Italian approach reminds us that life is meant to be lived, to be savored, to be experienced with all our senses.
Yeah.
And it's not just about pleasure either.
Right.
It's about finding meaning and purpose in everything we do, whether it's work, relationships, or simply enjoying a delicious meal.
So how do we, the non-Italians, embrace this zest for life? Do we all need to start waving our hands and arguing about pasta?
Well, a little hand talking never hurt anyone. But on a more serious note, I think it's about being open to experiencing things more fully.
Okay.
It's about allowing ourselves to feel things more deeply, to express our opinions with conviction, and to approach life with a sense of playful curiosity.
So it's like finding that inner Italian, even if you haven't got a drop of Italian blood in you.
Exactly. It's a mindset, a way of being in the world that's open to passion, connection, and the simple joys of everyday life.
Yeah.
And it's something we can cultivate, even in small ways.
You know, as we've been talking, I've been thinking about how this all ties back to the video's title,
Yeah.
Are Italians Nuts? It's like, on the surface, that passion might seem a little crazy,
Yeah.
but when you really delve into it, you realize it's not about being nuts at all. It's about being fully alive.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about embracing life with all its ups and downs, its
Mm.
joys and sorrows, its arguments and its laughter. Finding the beauty in all of it.
I love that. And I have to say, this deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for Italian culture
Right.
and for the power of embracing passion in all its forms.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you, and I hope our listeners are feeling inspired to add a little sprinkle of that Italian zest to their own lives.
Well, before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, what's one thing you've learned from Italian culture that you've tried to incorporate into your own life?
It's a great question. I think for me, it's been about slowing down and savoring those everyday moments. Like, instead of just gulping down my morning coffee, I try to really appreciate the aroma, the taste, the warmth of the mud in my hands.
Mm.
It's a small thing, but it makes a difference.
I love that. It's about being present, isn't it? Not just going through the motions, but actually experiencing each moment.
Exactly. And it's something I'm constantly working on.
Yeah.
But I think the more we can cultivate that awareness, the more we can appreciate the richness of life, even in the smallest details.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners as well.
Yeah.
It's not about upending your entire life. It's about finding those little ways to inject a little bit of that Italian passion into your everyday routine.
I agree. And, you know, it doesn't have to be about Italian culture specifically.
Right.
It's about finding what lights you up, what makes you feel truly alive, and pursuing it with passion and purpose.
So well said. And speaking of pursuing things with passion, I'm suddenly feeling inspired to go whip up a big batch of pasta and maybe have a lively debate about the best way to make sauce.
Sounds like a perfect way to embrace that inner Italian. And, I wouldn't mind joining you for that debate.
Perfect. We can even throw in some hand gestures for good measure.
Hmm.
But before we get carried away with our culinary adventures, we should probably wrap up this deep dive.
Indeed. It's been a pleasure diving into this topic with you. And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of Italian culture. We hope you've learned something new and perhaps even been inspired to add a little bit of that Italian zest to your own life.
Well said. And remember, as they say in Italy, la vita è bella. Life is beautiful. So go out there and embrace it with all the passion you can muster.
Ciao for now.